reached out to private sector.
It depends if they want to. They might just be here to speak at the public
So we
section.
don't fall in monastic.
We're here now, I think, on the gate. We're bold.
You're out here for the ride.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Thanks ever so much.
Good evening, yeah, you.
You be Mrs. Brayson?
David.
You? This is going to have to take over.
That's it, yeah. David, I'm going to have to leave the meeting halfway through, so did you want to take a front seat up here so you're ready?
Yeah.
Lucy. No, Claire. Claire. I always get you two next one. Yeah, fine, thanks very much. Did you have some snowy today?
Not today, no. Plenty of it the other day.
Oh, God, it's not coming back, is it? Yeah, it's been well there during COVID.
Oh, it's heavy frost today, I think, I think.
Yeah,
So it wasn't until late 21 that restriction, was it?
it's true. We didn't get a bill until October 2020. From October 2020.
You shouldn't have got them because that was during lockdown.
No, we'd come back by then. We came back.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we came back in October, November.
During lockdown.
Yeah, they started doing those. Because although the office wasn't open,
Because it wasn't until July 21 that lockdowns ended.
we went into the office in 2020 because although the branch office was closed, the clerk just still had it working. I did not come down there.
No.
Although I didn't start, so it's not
No,
one
you
like
didn't.
Dr. 29, but Alex was working. No, so that's why I walked down there. Sometimes it could be.
Yeah,
I don't think there was any leeway if we disagree now on the dates that they were suggesting. The disagreement was, we didn't say, there's no written anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have historically paid.
There should be 27 Church Drive, you know.
Right.
27 Green.
Yes.
And they're 27 Church Drive.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Yes, mate, you.
And Liesl, when you put the road in,
Yeah.
they stuck the sign of Church Drive at the end of.
Church Drive was sort of
Yeah, it comes to
David, do you want me to tomorrow?
stops at David.
Colin Wilkinson is in my office because I'm not in tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
10 o'clock.
The nursery should be 27 the Green.
Donna will be there anyway, won't she?
Yeah, but I told them that, because I wasn't sure whether there was going to be a room available, so I'm not in.
That's
so they can
27,
have
because sometimes I get drivers that say Church Drive, I've been down there, I can't find it.
When we were talking about disabled swing,
Yeah.
Because you see, I'm still Green, I used to be the last house on
children's
Green,
charity,
till the built Church Drive.
very
in
into disability facilities grant.
Yeah.
So it would be one place to go for that.
Yeah. I'm just waiting to find out what the cost of the swings are to replace the thingy swings.
You all right? Yeah, good, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
26, I'll make it. Newbold Heath, backwards.
Oh, no, yeah, that's the way I
Richard Allen, Kent, Boswell.
never did.
That's it.
I always watched your news too. I always
Yeah.
come cross
I
country.
think I prefer going through Rochester.
Yeah, and
on that way on.
My side of town, it's that way.
Yeah.
I've got to stop it from Blue Bowl Bird on the way back, so that's the way to the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind you, that's all changed, isn't it? Because the dragon went and was building there. The Juniper's gone. The shooting place that used to be.
I think it's got worse to it.
Yeah. Used to get all our shoe stuff from there.
Yeah, I remember my mum going over there as well,
Yeah.
kids.
All went in Coal Building as relation to it. And that's the health centre now next to that.
So we've got the item 17.
Things change. Sometimes all the better still.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping it's not going to be as bad as this one.
Yeah, this one.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously if that gets amended, like we suggested, it might be
Yeah.
still recorded for that decision.
Yeah.
Someone wandering across the car park was just saying that is amended.
Yeah. So I've changed the minutes to reflect the different figures.
Is that the
No.
copy I've got to sign, is it?
Yeah, and if you look, yeah, I've changed the figures on them because I don't know where John got his. Oh, you're on the wrong page.
Yeah, I was going to say, it didn't look familiar.
There you go. So you look,
That's,
Yeah.
sorry, that's 86, not
Yeah.
56.
and then, so I've changed those figures to match the budget, which I don't have.
Is he not
I
coming?
think he was looking at a previous copy of the
No, I
budget
mean,
before we changed it.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, so they're the right figures.
Richard.
As long as Hinkley Potter have got the right figures, that's the
Yeah,
main
that,
thing,
yeah,
isn't it?
no, I spoke to them today. So, yeah, they're fine.
We've still got Richard to arrive because we haven't received apologies. I'll probably start the meeting in Hobart.
Well, we have to start it anyway at 7:30, and then if he
Yeah.
comes in, we'll just record when he comes in.
Yeah, if it becomes a nuisance and lock it. Is that what you're thinking of it? Keeps. Yeah. Right, you're happy to start then? Right, good evening everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. We're still waiting on one member. We haven't received apologies for, but I suggest we start. Yeah, if you want to lock it, yeah. Yeah, okay then. Well, thank you. So item number 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, I've only received one apology, and that's from County Councillor Peter Bedford.
That's okay, thank you very much. Item number 2, declaration of interests.
I was just, so I've got possibly an interest in the planning application on Main Street, just because I'm fairly close to it.
Right, okay, then there's no...
So is that a yes or a no? It's
Well,
no? It can't be a...
She's looking for guidance on that matter.
So at the end of the day, it's a matter for you, councillor. If you think you have an interest, you declare it. If you don't think you're in an interest, you
I
don't.
would declare it, just to be
Okay.
on the safe side.
Is it still 21 metres? Planning application. I don't think Lucy's 20. I think she inches, a bit 21 inches away,
Interest, yeah, I want to declare the interest in the borough council items on the thing, so item 6 is in below.
Would it be possible for people to speak up, because I'm not hearing anything that's going on, and if the public were allowed to listen in? I ask people to speak clearly, so that we're saying...
We'll do our best for you, yes, apologies.
I am declaring an interest on the borough council item that's on the agenda because being a member of the borough council. I also, as a member of the borough council's planning committee, will not take part in any of the planning discussion in case those items that come forward to the borough, so I want to take part there.
Or do you have similar interest?
I didn't know that was you, really.
I'll also declare an interest on the Main Street application. The applicant and the residents objecting are all customers of the business that I own.
Declaring your interest in the community centre.
Oh yes, my DPI on the community centre. As such, I'll be withdrawing from the meeting when the topic of the centre arises, which I believe is item 15.
Chair, can council request that you stay?
I can, yes, I haven't applied for a dispensation, but I can at the request of the council.
I think it would be in council's interest if you did stay. Obviously, there would be no voting rights, am I right, Clark?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's important that you're possibly here to take part in the conversation, because obviously we've got a common interest from when the problem started through to where we are today. And there might be information that you quite rightly pointed out at the weekend that you have that Lorraine doesn't.
If Lorraine, being the proper officer, is happy for that, then I'm happy to do it. I won't get involved in discussion, but I will make myself available to answer direct questions. But I'll leave that decision. Well, does the council agree with that proposal?
Yeah, it would make sense that you do take any questions, but take no part in the debate.
Right, we'll leave the decision up to the...
Yeah, that's fine, if the council are happy with that.
Okay. Right, item 4, confirmation of the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 27th of February.
Sorry, Chair, do you just want to advise council that your previous dispensation is now at an end? Just so that
Right,
you know.
yes.
Yeah.
The previous dispensation was on the condition that it was only valid if it was required to make the meeting quorate. Obviously, we've got sufficient members here now to be quorate without me, so it isn't a requirement. So item 4, the confirmation of the minutes. There were some errors seen by Lorraine on the budget figures, which have now been corrected. There's also an error with the application number, which wasn't an agenda item, it was there as a result of public participation.
Yeah, can I just clarify, Chair, the budget figures in respect of the budget that was agreed for Markfield Parish Council, they were incorrectly recorded by, on the previous minutes. It should say the expenditure should read 226,150 with an income of 280,232.
Is there any other comments on the minutes?
Move those, Chair.
I'll second that.
Which copy would you like me to sign?
Just that one, because I've made the necessary amendments. And then over the pages, on the bottom of that page, and then just above the chairman's signature there, that would be great. Thank you very much. Thanks. Get those out.
Thank you. Right, just before we move on to the public participation, I just want to clarify one item which I'm not going to be in discussion with. On item 17, the report prepared by Councillor Taylor, thank you for your work on that. It's referred to as a feasibility study. I think it'd be fair to say it can't be classed as that. Would you agree with that comment?
No. No, it is exactly what it says on the tin. What would you like to classify it as?
Forecast budget, possibly?
Semantics, you can call it what you like, but it tells you, it gives you a clear indication of the situation.
Oh yeah, yeah, it does. It does. I don't disagree with that. But in terms of being a feasibility report, it doesn't give the whole picture, does it? I don't think.
So what's missing?
Can I, through you, Chairman, there's nothing in there from the insurance company for that option. So what would the requirements be from our insurers?
In respect of?
Mothballing the centre.
Well, that's, yeah.
You know, what? There's nothing in there that they would advise us to do.
Well, you'd have
For
to-
instance,
you'd
the
have to-
security of the site.
Well,
You
when
know.
we come to the conversation, then I can further explain what mothball means. And I think as far as insurance is concerned, it's like any other commercial property. Even though you're not using it, you have to maintain it, and it has to be safe and secure. And obviously, from the insurance point of view, you still insure the bricks and mortar.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's just for me, for it to be classed as a feasibility study, it'd have to look at the whole situation. I mean, I don't, from memory, doesn't refer to the situation of the parish office. What are the cost implications of hiring an office for the parish council? Where would that be? The implications of it not being in the village?
There's no reason why the parish office couldn't stay in the building, is there? Because you own the building.
Well, that would throw apart the budget that's been suggested.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't, because the budget includes for minimal use of gas and electric. If I remember, Lorraine's there for 4 days a week for 6 hours a day, or something like 7 hours a day. So, and of course through COVID, the clerk could work from home and did work from home. So there's no, the cost impact of keeping the parish office open would be minimal.
Well, I mean, it's not really, it's not a point that really needs to be argued out, because at the end of the day, the report, there's no result in action from the report, is it? It's just there for information.
The report is read in conjunction with the community centre budget that Lorraine has put together, and you input the numbers that are now altered through the minutes into the general budget, then you'll actually see how bad the situation is and how quickly some sort of action needs to be taken.
But in terms of the report being used today, there's no action as a result of it, is there? It's for information.
I would hope this meeting, on the back of that information, unless somebody has got some better information to contest it, I would hope that this meeting will bring about a solution that acts upon that information. Because if we don't, then I think the implications are pretty severe.
And could I just clarify, was that report requested by council?
Well,
The so-called feasibility report?
well, it was part of the background as well from what was presented to council, if you remember, in November of last year, and it was really as a means also of bringing the newer members up to speed with where we'd got to in November, that special meeting in November 2022. But I suggest that you bring all this out at the right time on the agenda when you debate that particular item.
Okay, could it be minuted that I don't agree that it should be considered a feasibility report?
I'll minute it at the appropriate juncture on the agenda if you want.
I won't be speaking at that point, but
yeah,
I'll leave that
okay.
for you to
Okay, I'll
take
put that
care
in.
of.
Okay.
Right, item 5. As you will all see, we've got a busy agenda tonight. I'm going to be very strict to the 15-minute allowance. If anyone would like to speak, now's your opportunity. Yes, please.
Hi, David. You know about this problem where
Lilac College, yeah.
they did a MQP, but they're by Dustan, with MQP employed Dustan, which I think should be a purely independent company for the application. The top lies on the report about that we had renovation works, building works, this could create some dust. I painted, some of the house was painted at the back. And then secondly, have I taken the report over?
You have, yeah, thank you for that, yeah.
Now there's about notwithstanding this is from the planning officers in charge of the code. It was a view of the environmental health, but the findings of the report are now somewhat outdated, given the length of time it's been since samples were first collected and analysed. It's from about 4 months to get reported. But as I'm saying, Dustan have got a massive financial contract with MQP. Nothing's totally immoral and corrupt, but they're doing the dust sampling for the quarry and then submitting them to the council.
Yeah.
My argument, it should be a purely independent company, and the system they're using is an outdated system with this. I've spoken to dust who specialise in this area, and they're using an antiquated system of doing dust samples.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for keeping me in the loop with the emails.
Right.
As I understand it, Environmental have been in touch and they're requesting new investigation, aren't they?
Yeah, but via Dustan again, who lied about building works. I've had no building works going on. They put every other paragraph was renovation, building works, groundworks, and there was none going on at the property. So it looks like they're trying to mask it all off with, attributing it to dust work going on at the house, which is not been.
Right, okay, I mean, I can't, if the environment, was it England Bosworth Environmental or Leicester County?
I believe it's in Bosworth.
Yeah, I mean, if they're content with Duscan's activities, I don't think I can ask them to take it any
I
further.
don't think I should be an independent company.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, on the application for the extension, I don't know if you read my response from the parish. I did highlight there the need for independent reports to be completed. I haven't heard back from that. I could see if that's been looked into any further.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll send an email to them, see what they come back with, and I'll let you know.
And do you know anything more about the independent dust monitors?
Have we received the monitors back that we lent to Greedy Parish?
Yeah.
We've not had them back, but I'll chase them down
Okay,
and
thank you.
get them back for you. Okay. Oh, it's a Field Residents Group. Right, okay, yeah. We can get in touch and see if we can get them back. Is there any more questions?
Yeah. I've been concerned for quite a while over the lack of communication, particularly in the Herald, where the parish council used to regularly feature. I don't think it's been in the Herald for a good 12 months. And I can see the parish is sneaking into a public relations disaster if public access to the Jubilee playing fields is restricted. There's a very pertinent letter from Mr. Goodwin in the Herald, legislation in the Herald, which I totally sympathise with. Having utilised Jubilee playing fields with family and friends for over 40 years, having helped plant all the trees, maintain the trees, etc. over that time. Is public access going to be generally available across the Jubilee playing fields should you sign this lease with the new sporting Markfield beverage stores?
It hasn't been discussed. You know better than anyone. Is there a public footpath through there? It's just a historic.
No, let's get this right. Jubilee playing fields is publicly owned land by the parish council. Anyone can go on there for any legitimate use at any time. It also features in the neighbourhood plan as a local green space, which then gives it a legal standing within the national planning policy framework. I can find no record of any consultation with anyone other than sporting users of the Jubilee playing fields when it comes to possibly this new lease arrangement. October 22nd last year, a member from the sports organisation reported that existing users have been consulted. They haven't. If you call existing users the general public who were up there whenever they want to be. So what I'm seeking is to be minuted tonight, is general public access going to be available in the future in perpetuity?
So I might be able to help you with the 22nd of October. The reference in that meeting was purely to do with the other sports organisations who had an interest in the area. There was certainly no conversation, as I recall, Clark, that referred to any members of the public being consulted.
Nothing is
Okay, so we'll look into it and get back to you.
Well, no. I'm coming with an ultimatum tomorrow. I'm scheduled to meet with the Vice Chair and Mr. Gann, the planning consultant who will assist the parish with a review of the neighbourhood plan. Now, unless I get it very clearly stated tonight that public access is not going to be restricted, I'm walking away from the neighbourhood plan.
Through you, Chairman, Tony, I think that the Jubilee, going back to the historical look at Jubilee playing fields, that public access has got to be continued despite the discussions around that lease. I understand the lease is probably for the building itself and the running of the clubs and the teams, and not to take over the running of that land. Now obviously that is the clarification that we need when those lease discussions are finalised.
This is where the parish has been letting itself down over the last 12, 15 months. I recognise, because I was on the parish council, I know there are issues with these, but you could have been far more open about it. And to me, you're going down exactly the same line here. You might even be asked to endorse the lease tonight, but you've had a chance to look at. What I'm seeking is clarification, confirmation, public access will still be there in perpetuity. If it isn't, neighbourhood plan, as far as I'm concerned, I'm walking away. End of story.
Well, I think you make a valid point that we've got new members here that are looking at a very complicated lease proposal. So I'll probably suggest that we let Lorraine look into the background. We don't make any decisions on the lease tonight, and then we put it forward for discussion at a future date.
I would totally agree with you. I think it would be grossly premature for the new members to be put on the spot to make a complex decision that will have impact over the next 25 years, potentially, on the parish. We have an election coming up as well. There may be other folk wishing to stand who may have different views. End of story.
I was actually going to say, can we move it forward, because I don't know anything about it, with what I've got.
It is on the agenda.
I know, but I was going to say, I know it's not on there, but can we, because I don't know anything about it, not important.
Chairman, look, obviously people know why myself and Richard are here. We were appointed by the Borough Council when there was no members. So all this sort of stuff about, you know, you have to forgive me, I don't understand the ins and outs of all the things that have gone on in the past. But what I can say is that, you know, as a Hinckley councillor, Hinckley have got a dozen parks, well probably not a dozen, but a significant number of parks, each of which have got continued public access, most of which have got sports pitches on and have got private arrangements. So it's not beyond the wit of people to get it so everybody's happy. And if you know, I'm sure Borough Council officers will be more than happy to talk to yourselves if that's needed to how that managed. Yeah.
In terms of your point for today, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's just to confirm or agree with some couple of amendments. It's not to set in stone this lease. It's just to discuss a couple of amendments. So, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I can be released.
I'll be continuing.
I'll see you tomorrow, Tony.
Well, are you more confident if I can reply?
Yeah, you'll be
I
fine.
have a sort of.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. Any more questions for tonight? No? Right, item 6, county and borough councillors. The report's been sent out, haven't they?
I've circulated County Councillor Bedford's report because he had already given his apologies. I've not heard anything from our borough councillors, either Councillor Lay or Councillor Furlong. I've not received anything, so...
Right, okay. Thank you. Item 7, bank signatures.
Yes, Chair. We need to appoint signatories to the bank account now because the makeup of the council has changed. They normally recommend 3, usually the chair, the vice chair and one other, normally. But it's a matter for the council to appoint signatories.
I think chair and vice chair is a sensible move.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lisa?
everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, item 8, financial reports.
Yes, Chair, this has been circulated and basically it's the list of income and expenditure. I circulated later this afternoon an update which included an additional 4 invoices that came in after the dispatch of the agenda. One is for the audit fees for LRALC, £335. One is the payment of the car park rent to the Plainfield Committee for the car park rent, which we've now received. One is for the PAT testing that took place at the community centre yesterday, and one is we've got to replace a manhole cover on the green space between Bradgate Road and Countryman Way. There's a manhole cover there that's cracked and is now a trip hazard.
Yeah.
So, and that's on a pro forma invoice. I've got to pay for it before they'll send it.
Okay.
If anybody's got any questions about any of them.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah. Right, any comments? No,
Everybody happy?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
anything from me?
That's fine, that's fine.
Item 9, is that, that's for a different period, isn't it?
The item 9 relates to the bank reconciliation statements. Normally these would go to the Policy and Resources Committee, but we don't have one currently, so they've come to full council. It's recommended they come quarterly, but I usually do it monthly, but this is for the last 3 months because we haven't had a Policy and Resources Committee. So it's the bank reconciliation statements for November last year, December last year, and for January this year.
Any points to be raised? No?
So can I just add, does the carry-on figure stay the same given some items that need to be paid for
So,
up on the agenda?
yes.
To carry on?
Well, this only takes us up to the end of February. So none of the payments will go until March, so it'll show in March, not February. So,
Right.
so if everybody's happy with that, then the chairman can sign them. Okay. So you need to sign there. assessing the budget, which was in November last year, was that it was 100,000. But I think we're probably looking at somewhere between 70 and 80.
There's still a substantial.
Yeah.
It is, Vice Chair, of course it is a substantial amount of money, but when you feed that into the carry forward figure for the end of 23/4, then the impact then on 24/5 pre-sales to recover would possibly be 300% plus.
Assuming that everything is spent as according to,
I don't think you're going to have a lot of options.
well, a number of assumptions around budgets.
Well, the factual, because it's been tracked since last October.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, for instance, if the community centre continues to run and increase its income generation, then that changes that benefit.
It would
The
change it.
assumption that, we don't, it doesn't grow,
Yeah, it would change it if you increase the charge out rates by 100%, or you increase the sold hours by 50%. Because at the moment, you're running for loss every single week.
because which you would expect with what's gone on around the centre over the last 9 months.
The past is in the past. What we've got to look at is how we
Absolutely, and how we increase income generation.
is there a plan to do that?
Well,
Could I say, Chairman, there was always a requirement and a plan, right, to review the fees and charges. We agreed with the existing hirers that their fees and charges will not rise until April. In April, we will need to look at those and maybe compare with other centres locally to see what everybody's charging. Certainly the problem has been that it's been very difficult to establish what the charging regime was for certain groups. So you need to really look at that going forward as part of your assessment.
yeah, I agree.
But the reality is that unless you're going to increase the selling hours, and certainly when you track the 12 weeks to date that the parish council has been operating the community centre, you can see some growth, yes, and the staff down there have done a fantastic job to grow it how they have, but it's nowhere near what it needs. From the 1st of April, the rates need to double, so your Luga needs to be £35–40 an hour. Because if you look at the cost of gas and electric that the clerk has now got, it's eye-watering numbers. It's all our projections in October are woefully low, and we did the best guess we could with the rising wholesale cost of gas and electric. But the cost of gas and electric down there on a weekly basis is eye-watering for the revenue that's coming through the door. It's without over-egging it, it's at crisis.
Okay.
How many clubs have we got in there?
Sorry?
How many clubs are actually going in? From a day?
You've got yoga, you've got Keep Fit.
We've got
I think
we've
Type
got
1 knows that.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's I think it's well used. I think the problem is that over the years the charging regime has not been what it should have been. Yeah.
But Chair, what I find staggering is that this conversation started in September, October last year. And one of the questions that was asked is how many groups participate at that place when we take it over on the 22nd, 3rd, 4th of November. We didn't answer the question.
Councillor, that Donna has provided you with a written
Well,
list now of those clubs that come
no,
in.
she hasn't. No, she hasn't. What Donna's provided me with is a handwritten list of the bookings for this week and the forthcoming 4 weeks in the specific areas, which I'm in the process now of putting into some sort of spreadsheet so that we can understand where we've got gaps, so that we can look at our salary costs for where we've got gaps, and how many hours a week we're actually selling, and how many hours a week we could be selling. But the staggering point of all this is that when I started running numbers following my visit to the MCA with Councillor Crook on the 10th of November, the information that is coming through 3 months later is that information that was provided to that meeting on the 22nd of November, which was ignored by the councillors sat around that table on the day. So, as far as revenue take, and as far as costs, revenue is pretty much in line with where it was. Cost is exponentially more than what it was at that time. And I think, you know, it's at a point where if we continue to operate that centre from the 1st of April without some significant change of operating model, or a massive increase in customers, or a 100% increase in hourly charge, by Christmas, this parish council will be broke, because you'll have used all of your reserve for this year, and you will have swallowed up the 46,500 grant that you're going to put in there. Now, this information was out there in November last year. It's been forwarded to everybody again and updated. And to date, I've certainly not had anybody come back and challenge it. I don't know whether you have, Clark.
No.
So, unless somebody can turn around and tell me that it's a complete load of tosh, what I've provided, then I suspect that perhaps we ought to.
We need to move fast.
I would recommend that we do move quite fast, yes.
Well, I think we've all agreed that we need to move with some speed on the future of the centre, and that, you know, we've taken over a building that needed a lot of work doing to make it compliant.
It's not a shock though, councillor. It's not a shock to anybody.
No, the community centre was originally set up as a community space.
Correct.
Used for sports.
Correct.
And the model to set up a not-for-profit charity to run the centre through charges, through donations and through grant aid.
Correct.
That's where the funding would come from.
Correct.
To keep that centre running as a community space. And that worked. That worked for
nobody's disputing what's gone
from day one.
Nobody.
The problem has come since the parish council decided to evict the MCA and take over the running of the centre themselves.
So let's
And
just
they used
clarify
the
that
legal
point.
route, excuse me, they used the legal route to do that and take possession, and in that legal route they took to run the centre.
That's not
I
correct.
disagree.
No, it is correct.
It's not correct. It's not correct at all.
It is correct.
No, it's not
Correct
correct.
the legal proceedings.
It's not correct. Where is the solicitor's letter that says we've got to run that centre?
I've seen a letter from the solicitor actually stating how the parish council took over the building and what it used to take over the building.
Right, well, let me help you then with this. So, there was a hostile Section 25 notice issued, which would effectively evict the MCA on the 9th of December. It was then decided, with legal advice, that it would be strategic to try and pursue a forfeiture of the lease. On the 26th of October, there was an email and a letter sent from Smith Martineau to the then chair and vice chair on how that process would follow through. At no time in that letter did it suggest that we would have to run it. When we got to the point of a conversation with the MCA on the 10th of November, which Councillor Crook and I were mandated to do from the October council meeting, it was agreed with the MCA by their first disclosure that they would sign a consent order to forfeit the lease, which they did. The solicitors wanted the date of that consent to be the 11th of November, the following day. Councillor Crook and I stalled on that because it would mean the parish council would have the building to operate or to do something with from the 11th of November. Councillor Crook then went back to the MCA and they agreed to sign, and it was signed for the 22nd. And the reason it was signed on the 22nd of November was because the forfeiture hearing in court was going to be on the 23rd of November, and if it wasn't signed before the forfeiture and put to court, then it would probably be dismissed with costs, and we would then go to the hostile eviction. The hostile eviction was specifically around us wanting to run the property ourselves. That was one of the conditions on it, one of the reasons that we gave. Once the consent to forfeiture was signed, then the Section 25 didn't exist anymore, and therefore the circumstances of the Section 25 went with the forfeiture. So there was no obligation for the parish council to run that asset from that day. Fact. And unless you've got something that
Except
nobody
the
else...
parish council agreed to take over the running of the centre.
Agreed with whom?
The parish council actually agreed that at their meeting.
Not on the 22nd of November they didn't.
They did, because that's why you resigned.
No, I resigned because of the way that it was being dealt with. I resigned because of all the budgetary information and all the information that Councillor Crook and I spent lots and lots of hours putting together was totally ignored.
I don't think it was ignored.
Well,
I think it was
because
minuted.
it's still being raised this evening.
It was minuted.
And nobody's got knowledge of it. So I would say that's not...
It was minuted, not ignored. There's a difference.
Sorry?
There's a difference. It
So-
was minuted, so it wasn't
We'll
ignored.
minute it and ignore it, but we're not going to say we ignore
Was
it.
it voted on?
No,
Sorry?
Was there a vote on it?
no,
No.
So nobody voted on the
No.
decision of...
no.
No, they voted on taking over the
If the
centre.
parish council were taking over the community centre, weren't they going to run it anyway, or am I missing something here?
Could I just say, Chairman, there was a decision made by the council back in January of 2022 that gave delegated authority to the Policy and Resources Committee to do everything to keep the centre open. And that was taken in January of 2022.
And in April of 22, there was a minute that said, can we please find out what the obligation is with regards to running it ourselves? So it's a matter of interpretation of how you interpret running it ourselves. The reality is that we have run it ourselves from the 25th of November until today, and The reality of what it is costing us to run it ourselves is before you again to consider if that is the best option. And my suggestion is that unless somebody can find another chunk of money from somewhere, I would proffer that perhaps it's not in our best interest. So if you want to go to any of the documents really, if you go to the Clerk's General Budget and you feed in 70,000 as the carry-in figure, you'll come up with a general fund reserve of 10,582. So you're going to go into 24/5 with a general fund of 10,582, because if you take 30,000 off the top, you've got to take it off the bottom. And then if you go forward,
Assuming nothing changes.
well, I'm not certain what can change, David, because the problem that we have is that we've got nowhere else to strip any money out.
Could I just ask,
Sure.
Chairman, sorry, have we moved on to a different, have we moved on to the future now of the centre? I was just,
Well, I think
Conversion to
come
one.
on, okay.
Chairman, look, you know, I could genuinely say I'm the new boy here, so I don't know what's gone on in the past regarding this. I was, you know, when I first became deputy leader of the council in 2007, I came over here because, you know, because leisure was in my portfolio. We celebrated what a wonderful facility this is, and David was there.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I find this discussion incredibly depressing. It is a fantastic facility. It is a fantastic facility. You know, I'm a member of Burbage Parish Council. My county division covers a small part of Burbage, and they run a centre there where they've had to extend it because they're falling over themselves to get groups in there. And I just find this whole discussion incredibly depressing, because it's a fantastic facility,
I think,
and we should be looking at
I
getting
think you're right,
keeping it
Stuart,
open.
and you know, with the, things have gone on over the past few months that have not helped. There's been no real advertising, there's been no proactive work to get other groups into the centre. Yeah, it is a great community facility, and it was always intended to be that.
No,
Have you applied for any funds or grants?
can't, because we can't apply for grant funding.
Only charitable charities, which is why the MCA was set up originally, so it could apply for grants.
But we also have our own charity that we could be using for the community centre,
Which one?
the Markfield Recreational Ground Trust.
The Markfield Recreational Grounds Trust was there to take on the recreational ground from the then Miners Trust.
I appreciate that.
And the Markfield Parish Council is the only trustee. It doesn't generate any income.
But it can by
It could evolve into a new MCA, if that's what you're saying.
It's a way of
It's a way of moving forward.
David, you're reinventing the wheel. This was spoken about in September. Kevin's aware.
Well, with respect, many of us wasn't here then. We are where we are, and we have got to take this forward and look to secure a community asset into the future.
I think that's
It's a difficult period for us all. We're all new, and we've all got a job to do, but we've got to recognise that the major community asset, which was highly valued through the consultation when we did the neighbourhood plan, we need to do all we can to secure the future of that centre for our grandchildren and their children.
Nobody's disputing that,
I
David.
totally agree.
Nobody's
But as a
disputing
Markfield
that.
resident, it is our obligation as councillors to make sure that we're not putting this financial
Absolutely.
thunder on the residents, because whilst you keep it open, we're all going to suffer.
no capital project.
There is nothing in place for it to, even if you restricted the hours, to meet those clubs. You're not making any difference other than we're going to pick it up at the end of the day.
Based on the current income stream,
The current income stream, yes.
right, based on the current income stream, so from the 1st of April, Lorraine did a budget for 9 months,
Yeah,
£91,420.
yeah.
That is certainly light on energy costs, we believe, because of the eye-watering bills that we've received in the last 2 or 3 weeks. If we carry on the run rate that we've got for income, at the end of that 9 months, we're set to lose at least 23,000. Your fund, your general fund, when you get to
Yeah,
April,
you've made that point 3 times now.
But the problem I've got, Councillor, is I've made the point 3 times and nobody seems to understand how grave the situation is, because we will bankrupt this parish council if we carry on in this reckless way. Fact.
If we continue to do what we are doing, I would agree.
We've done it well for 3 months, so how...
We haven't been operating as a parish council for 3 months.
We have.
We haven't.
We've been operating that asset for 3 months.
We haven't. We've had a number of resignations.
That's the parish council, not
The parish council. That's what I'm talking about.
The community centre still, the business should have still...
The community centre has still been operating as requested by the parish council
At a loss.
at a loss. However, the future is about how we can turn that round to make sure that the community centre once again is run either as a not-for-profit organisation
But you haven't got a vehicle to treat as a
or
not-for-profit
operated
organisation.
by a third party.
But your not-for-profit organisation that's going to unlock your grant aiding is the Markfield Recreational Ground Trust, because that is the charity arm of Markfield Parish Council.
It could be, but that was set up to look after
But that was what was resolved to happen.
the Recreational Grounds Trust was there to look after the recreational grounds,
no,
not
Lorraine,
the community centre.
Lorraine, please, just
Yeah.
I'm the chairperson at the Community Centre in Leicester. We've been running the community for 35 years. I've been chair for the last 7. We've been through a situation where Leicester City Council taken their funding away over a proposed 3-year period. It ended up in a 5-year period. We were funded by the council. It took us 5 years to get them. This was pre-COVID. We had funding was tapered down over 5 years. We had legal support. We had voluntary action in Leicester. All we had devising a business plan, coming in holding meetings. It took us 5 years to get that. This was pre-COVID. Now, with the situation being the way things are at the moment, I think this is a very long-term plan. So if we are going to talk about budgets, we need to look at, and if we're running ourselves, we're going to need to look at least the next 3 to 4 years as a bare minimum to get up to where we are running it as a not-for-profit organisation. There's a lot of work to be done. It is possible. I think there's a lot of things that's against us at the moment. It is possible, but it's a long-term plan. I think we just need to bear that in mind when we're discussing budgets. And that's the way we're
If I can, Vice Chair, just as a quick suggestion which might be helpful. There's a guy at the Borough Council, Paul Scragg, who Stuart confirmed is an absolute genius at finding various obscure pots of money and grants which potentially might be worth investigating to help us out in the short term and moving forwards.
Yeah.
Could you repeat that name?
Paul Scragg.
Not necessarily the person I was going to. I'd go to Edwina for things like this. He's in the... Paul Scragg's in the Green Spaces team, so if there's anything related to Green Spaces...
Yeah.
those grants apply to parish councils?
They can do. Look, there's plenty of parish councils that run very successful community centres and make a profit out of them and underpin their precept with it. And Burbage being one.
And
bigger and smaller as well.
And this parish council did exactly the same in partnership with the MCA. And it runs very successfully over many, many years until recent history change that.
Nobody's disputing that, David. I think you, with respect, I absolutely believe that it's the best. It's a fantastic asset, and it's got to be safeguarded however we get to the right answer. My concern that I'm trying to put forward to you tonight and to council tonight is we haven't got the luxury of time or money, because to be fair to the clerk, the responsible financial officer, in October she laid down a budget that gave us a precept of £200,000 on the basis of the forward costs for us to take on board that asset. Now, through the winter, for whatever reason, and you can speculate and accuse and contemplate as much as you want, but the reality is that precept was significantly reduced, and I believe without any consideration of the financial impact to the general reserve and or the losses that the community centre could incur. And until somebody tells me that the proposal and the feasibility that I've put forward is a load of rubbish and it's all wrong because of this grand plan, then I will need some convincing that we have got time to return to the former glory that we all speak about, without doing something significantly different to what we're doing now.
Have conversations continued with any third parties?
Is there any preschools, for example, or childcare clubs that might want to run from there because they're regular income?
I've had a conversation with private education, which is for us to look next door. We've also got a couple of community centres out in Leicestershire, and they said they'd be very interested.
Weight Watchers are always there, but
They're already in, yeah.
But the problem we've got, gents, is that when the MCA, in October, when the MCA stopped operating there, they did make us aware that they had lost two important clients, which was £9,000 a year of revenue, 2 dance schools. So not only did we take it over from a position of little knowledge and little experience and no real information on costs and letting hours and rates, we took it over in the knowledge that the revenue was possibly going to be down 9,000 on what their figures were projected. And if you scan back through all the records of emails and exchanges with regards to revenue take, the reality is that if you operate the same as the MCA did, then without any grants and support, which the MCA as a charitable trust could obtain, our best effort for 12 months is going to come in around 32,000 if we manage to keep increasing.
Which is why we need to move quickly forward on. I mean, we've got the Chris Lambert report as well, which gives a vision and a way forward. I accept that that's not costed, but it means that the centre will move to a new operating model if we follow that timescale before the end of the year. So the assumption that the current community centre is running at a loss will continue for 12 months with no new income generation, then your figures are correct. If we look at the assumption that the centre, once it's advertised again and encourages more users, that the Markfield Recreational Grounds Trust is its constitution is changed to include the running of the community centre, gives us a charitable arm that can raise funds through grants and donations.
But if you're going to go down the route of trying to reinvent it quickly,
Sorry, Stuart.
You're not going to reinvent
So
it.
it takes 3 to 5 years.
Sorry.
Hardly works with community centres, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, I know. I've known Harry for many, many years and worked with him. To be fine. Yeah, they do. They do.
So it's not, I mean,
They do.
nobody said, oh, we're going to get rid of the community centre, because we all say that it's one of our best assets.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not been, and the residents still want it open and operational, but not at a massive cost to them. So there has to be, you know, just because you have somebody else doing it, doesn't mean they can't facilitate local routes. They can still, you know, we can still look at that as a happy medium.
I don't understand what was the rationale of removing the MCA and the parish council taking that over. Was there going to be a handover period, or what happened to that? How did it go wrong?
Well, can I just explain where I came in? There was concerns raised by members of the parish council about how the centre was being operated on a financial basis, and that concern was raised also by the council's internal auditor. The parish council then had meetings with Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council, and they commissioned, through the Rural Community Council, a governance review of the MCA and how the centre was operating. When the report came out, it was disappointing. There was about 55 recommendations about how they needed to improve, and it was following that report that the parish council started talking to their lawyers and the Rural Community Council about how they could address those concerns.
Did they have an expert on board?
Well, we had our own local. We had the Rural Community Council. We had Hinckley and Bosworth. We had two.
Councillors.
Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council were on board. So we were dealing with them, with Simon Jones and Graham Chilvers. Yeah, Graham Chilvers, and then Edwina Grant. So there were all those, and Hinckley and Bosworth's legal team, our legal team, the MCA's legal team. So there was all this going on, and then what happened then was the council, when they felt that they were getting no further and the MCA were unable to address those 55 recommendations, that's when the legal process kicked in.
so that was September 22. Last September.
Yeah, I think as well, Harvey will probably backing up on this, at the minute the centre's not just about losing financial revenue, it's about the competence and the compliance of the operation.
Not the building
There
itself.
seems to be a bit of confusion with building compliance and operational compliance.
Do we have all the policies and procedures in place?
No.
We don't know.
And this is the
No,
main
not.
concern.
No.
This is when
So
we asked
if there
you,
was a situation
if
on
my
which
child goes
liable
into that
as a
building, are they
parish
safe?
council,
And you agreed that it was.
Yes.
It's
Well,
not.
it is.
No, the operational
If
compliance.
if the hirer is following their
There is no
health and
it's
safety.
us.
No.
The groups that hire the facility have got their own health and safety
No.
requirements.
No, it's
Yes,
not
they have.
about
So the
operational
Mother and Toddler
compliance.
group has got their own health and safety.
Well, they should have, yeah.
Somebody who goes there as a party.
To operate.
We work from the library. If we have a mother and toddler group coming to the
when-
library,
when-
we don't expect them to bring their
When
health
someone
and
hires it
safety.
for a party, that is different.
But
But a group who hires it on a regular basis,
I think part of the issue, right from the word go, with the Rural Community Council report was that the compliance wasn't there.
Thank you.
And it still isn't.
And it still isn't.
from day one.
But it still isn't.
It doesn't matter when it was, it needs to be put in place.
Yeah.
Because there's people using the community centre.
Well, can I just say,
It's not.
since the parish council took over, our policies now cover
All of the
staff
community
and
centre.
everything of the community centre.
Okay.
So our health and safety policy that the parish council have got
Covers
applies to
community
the
centre.
health and the community centre because it's now our facility.
So I guess we've got policies and procedures in place
No.
on how to collect money, how to
We
store.
don't need a separate one at the
data.
moment.
I think
That's relevant to the community
centre,
centre.
they have
Specifically for the community centre, we have.
yes, they've got
We
a
as the
po-
parish council, specifically for, designed for the community centre, was it generic?
it's generic at the moment.
Is it fit for purpose?
No.
It's not specific.
That's a different question, isn't it?
But it's all part of the same question, because within the Leicestershire County Council compliance audit, there are lots and lots of other things that, yes, we're doing absolutely fantastic things with gas, fire and electricity compliances, but there are things like the Equalities Act, an accessibility audit, cost assessments for the fluids and cleaners and liquids and stuff that the cleaners use. None of that's in place.
Well, to be fair, Stuart, you know, there's me.
I'm not, no,
You know-
This is exactly, that's what we're saying.
And so what I'm saying is in 3 months, and I mean, to be fair
You're
to
the one
the...
that's took all the work on.
And we've got one member of staff in the
Yeah,
community centre.
nobody, please Lorraine, nobody in this conversation is any way trying to undermine the sterling effort that you've made in, as a single person trying to keep the ship afloat. That is not in question. What is in question is that we continue to open those doors, and we will tomorrow, and the parish council is at risk for people coming through that door. We haven't got an accessibility procedure in place. We don't, I believe, unless you can prove to me otherwise, have a compliant process for dealing with money, because if we did, we would be able to put the hours that are booked against a receipt instead of a lump of money that's in a bag that goes to the bank. Because there's no audit from what goes into that bag to going into the bank in relation to these hours.
Okay, can I just say, hold on, Stuart.
Well, I was going to say, in terms of making sure that all the policies and everything else is compliant to run and make sure that people are safe coming in that centre, would it be a help to you, Lorraine, if I try and find somebody from the Borough Council that can come in and help do this?
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I've offered 12 to do it as well.
I guess the point is, from my point of view, is what are you trying to achieve out of this? You know, because in some respects, no skin off my nose. 6 weeks from now, I'm going to go back to Hinckley, and I should come to Markfield when I'm invited, and you know, and not if I'm not, sort of thing. But you know, that's the reality of the situation. I would be, if it was my community, I would be incredibly depressed if that shuts its door. My fear is I totally take the point that the lady raises. Sorry, I've not got all your names yet, Maddie. What Maddie raises that you're into a financial situation where it could all of a sudden bankrupt the council, and that's, nobody wants that, of course they don't. But the trouble is I've seen this happen so many times before. If that shuts its doors, I bet you it won't open again. It'll be sold off, and that's depressing.
That they want to shut the door, but for example, the rain is not there tomorrow.
No.
So when that centre
Who is in charge
opens
when the rain's
tomorrow,
not there?
very simply, are we breaking the law as a parish council? Because I think that we need to know whether we are breaking a law here.
Insurance is in place. isn't it?
Sure, insurance and everything is in place, yeah.
Not if everything's not covered and the rain's not there. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Can I make a suggestion? I'm assuming I've been kept here to be useful, not just to observe.
Yes, absolutely.
I appreciate the work you put into the study that the report. You know, I do see the work that's gone into it, but as a feasibility report, it's nowhere near the mark. We as a council could not decide to close the centre, even if we wanted to, based on that report.
Have you
It's
done
simply,
that?
sorry?
Did you do a feasibility report?
On keeping it open, yeah. Well, we had one done for us on keeping it
I've not
open
seen it, that's all.
because that was our preference. We wouldn't have a
Yeah,
report
but
done on
I've
closing
seen
it because we didn't want it to close.
It's not to the public.
But we couldn't, as a council, close the centre based on that report because it is so lacking in so many departments. I'm not discrediting the work you've done. Well, the work you've done was good, but there's more to be done to call it a feasibility study.
So what have you got in your possession that you've had done that councillors now need to see, and will you declare?
Well, look. There's things done, and we can debate and we can argue. What I'm going to
Have you got
suggest.
a document?
What I'm going to suggest
Have
is.
you got a document?
What document do you want?
Well, you just said you've had a feasibility report.
We have got one done. Yeah, I can email it to you
Please.
tonight.
So I think
Right.
all the councillors.
But in terms of moving forward, we've got a group of people want the centre closed. We've got a group of people want to keep it open.
Nobody wants it closed, Kevin. That's the
Well,
problem.
when you get home, re-watch this video. You want it closed.
We don't want to.
But if you close it, you're going to lose.
Right. Anyway, we've got
I think there's a difference between wanting it closed long term and shutting the doors to keep the stock open. There is a difference.
Right. Okay. So the point I'm leading to is still valid. Two people from one end, two people from the other end, form a working party. You work together. You can do a full feasibility study on closing the centre.
No point.
No, on closing it, because
Kevin,
let's all agree on how we can keep it open then.
Vote on it, and councillors left.
But all you're talking about.
Say no.
No.
All they're saying
Read
is temporarily.
There's no clear objection to where this is going.
Until we
Okay,
sort it out.
okay,
Let's not
okay.
break the laws.
Okay,
read what you've been
You're not
sent.
breaking the
You've been
law,
sent a
we've got it.
document.
okay,
And
can
the
I,
heading of the
hold
document
on.
says-
Can I just say,
And that's the starting point.
Councillor Taylor, hold on a minute. We're going round and round in circles. We've got your report, which we acknowledge, and thank you for doing that report. We've got the other report. Allegedly, we've got another.
We had a feasibility report done by the Society of Local Council Clerks Consortium.
Something like
And that was presented to council, was it September last year?
That's this one then.
Which one's that?
Local Council Consultancy and SLCC Enterprise, Philip Woodward, September
Yes.
22.
So we
Is that
had,
what you're referring to?
yeah,
So you and I, when we went to see the MCA and we spent hours drooling over the future of that place, we had this in our possession.
yes, we did.
So what's changed from September when we had that in our possession to what's happening now?
What do you mean, what's changed?
Well, because you've just alluded to the fact that you've got a further document and you're actually talking about something that's over 6 months old.
Well, that's the document I was referring. Look, the point I was getting to is if we to move forward from where we are now.
That document does not tell you how to run that centre.
Okay,
going
so
forward.
let's find a way to move forward from where we are now.
Do you agree that that document does not tell you how to move that centre forward and run it ourselves, which is what you said it did?
It says there's a possibility for us to do it, which is what I want to explore doing.
So
Can I just suggest a way forward?
it's not a way forward, it's a deference and it's a kick the can down the road again.
What's the option?
The option is to consider very quickly mothballing it.
Closing it, yeah.
No, I'm not talking about closing it. Nobody's used the word closing it. If you mothball it,
Show the council an acceptable, feasible study on the mothballing of that centre, then they can consider it. But no, it's not. It is so lacking. It is so lacking.
So can I just ask, what do you mean by mothballing it? Closing the doors until we find a way
Well,
forward?
no, for instance, so in September, we had 2 external third-party operators interested.
Yeah.
We're not sure, unless Councillor Crook knows different, whether or not any of those third parties are interested still.
Right.
So the option is that we can go to a third party and enter into a lease with a third party which would no doubt have a rent-free period because of the amount of investment in the place. It would hopefully be a not-for-profit organisation that eventually would pay the community a rental income, and it would underpin the community value. So all the organisations such as the Mayflower Club and all the historical organisations would be safeguarded occupants under that arrangement. We could run it ourselves and continue to run it ourselves, or we could look for qualified staff as a third option and try and set it off as in a new direction with a fully qualified team leading it. To mothball it as the other option, one of our biggest revenue streams down there is the outside Mooga, the paying services. That is let for possibly the longest period of time in any single week. We're coming into the summer months where they don't need the floodlights on, so there is no reason if we mothball it with our current member of staff on a different financial arrangement that we could not continue to earn some income from the outside space, and we could be selective on what we allow to happen indoors.
That's not mothballing it.
Well, it's mothballing in the sense that you greatly reduce your outgoings.
Right.
You greatly reduce your outgoings.
You're going to lose all the hirers because they're going to find somewhere else to go. In the meantime.
Well, are they not going to do that
And
when
you'll lose
you?
a staff member because
well,
they're going to put their hours.
That,
Staff
but that,
member was only doing minimum hours prior to
The-
parish
The,
council.
the option, the option,
She was doing a lot more, but she was only doing 15 hours.
is there not a risk to the hirers when we hike the rate
price.
to try and minimise the losses?
Yeah, but there's even more. If you close it for a while, they find somewhere else and they stay that place.
But when you open it with a third party, you've got the weight of a third party marketing
It's an
team.
organisation that knows what they're doing. Someone's got experience. None of us are experts here.
I mean, the option is that we either continue to run it as we're running it, with that caveat that you just outlined, or we mothball it, which in effect it means that the current users will not have a space to operate their facilities, their clubs,
And you will lose them.
and you're then saying that we would have a caretaker that would look after the centre and hire the outside spaces. It doesn't make sense.
Well, then
It doesn't
I
make
invite
sense.
you, Councillor Sprayson, to come up with your plan.
Well, it is my plan.
David.
How do we do this? Number one, I will ask officers in Hinkley and Bosworth to assist the clerk here in making sure that all the policies and hiring procedures and everything else are up to speed.
Okay.
Keep it open. Number two, we all collectively as a parish council try and do our best to advertise the space that's there and try and get some more users in, because whatever happens, they're going to benefit from having more users in there.
Correct.
And if anybody knows any childcare groups and things like that, there would be a regular income, that would be clear. Number three, we go back to the people who have previously expressed an interest in taking on the centre to see if they are still interested in taking on the centre. And because that way we would then at least be able to take a decision based on fact and not whether we not or hearsay. Yeah, exactly. And then having gone through all those three things, we can make a more informed decision at the next meeting or an urgent meeting if we need one more urgently than that.
And is it worth a compromise?
But keep it open. Keep it open in the meantime.
Is it worth keeping it open like for those whole period of time, or is it just like, okay, we've got to put a photography, we'll open it between?
Well, that's a possibility, but I just think that if you maybe the terminology is not right, but to me, mothballing it means closing it down and not letting people in. To me, that's a disaster.
No, I think
Yeah, because you won't get them back.
We won't get them back.
You won't get them back.
I think by finding a healthy balance,
Right.
would be the way forward at reduced time, somebody who opens the gates, somebody and
Okay,
just...
do you want to
I'll move
express
that
that again and
Sorry.
say, did you make note of what
So,
Stuart said?
yes, we're going to go to Hinckley and Bosworth, ask for help with policies and procedures. We're going to review the marketing of the centre and encourage more use. And we're going to revisit our conversations with those that expressed interest in running it. On
But I also think we should look at our fees and charges as well, and
they
potentially,
need to, yeah.
potentially, you know, for example, I could get you the list of what Burbage charge for their fees
Yeah,
fairly
an
quickly.
update.
Maybe it's
So
worth
that is a proposal from Councillor Gray as a way forward.
I'll second that.
We've got a seconder of that.
Can we'll check in the policy, can we check that, for instance, DBS and safeguarding as a matter of urgency? We've got young children in there, so we need to check what we can find with that.
We are.
Well, that's the idea of bringing Hinckley and Bosworth on. Yeah.
We're both current members of staff are DBS checked.
Safeguarding training has been done, yeah.
Well, yes, because our employee was employed by the school and she has all the necessary training.
Yeah,
and
she's had safeguarding training through Mercerfeld School.
Can I just answer your point, Madeline, that you made us a moment ago? I know from my partner working there at the weekend, certainly, if there's a period of no bookings, it's closed anyway.
So it's never manned when no groups are in?
Unless there's like a half-hour gap. You know, staff don't go home for like a half-hour gap, but if there's like a few hours gap, the door's locked, and then the staff comes back to open.
Okay, listen, we've had the proposal, we've had a seconder. Can I take it to a vote? All those in favour of that proposal, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Can we also have a name vote on this, please?
Right, okay. So this is... So technically this is the agenda item...
This is the forward.
17, yeah?
Yeah.
So I've got Richard Allen, 4. Stuart, 4. Maureen, 4.
Yeah.
David, 4. Lucy, 4.
Harvey. It's 4.
Harvey, 4. Anybody
All
else?
those against?
Are you 4?
Yeah.
You're 4.
A quick time frame.
Anyone against?
Maddie? You
No, I'm for, as long as it doesn't...
So on a 4-week timescale on this, are we?
Is that what was agreed, a 4-week timescale?
Well, I'll have to get...
Yeah, well, yes. All I would say is that you're obviously then 2 weeks away from an election, so,
Yeah.
you know...
No, but we need to be seen, doesn't it?
Okay.
Well, the next...
Stuart.
Can I,
It doesn't,
There's a
but
4-week time frame for it.
could I just say there is a meeting scheduled for the council on the 4th of April,
Yeah.
which is 3 weeks away?
Yeah.
So are we aiming for that?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Yeah.
This is an agenda item again.
Yeah, it will,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I just say, I'm surprised nobody mentioned bringing the community together to have events. And if the hall is used, is the bar available? I don't want to keep going back on things, but when we've had events down there, the bar's been open, whatever events we've had fundraising going on. As a village, when we work together, we can do all sorts.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, I'm seeing our village fall apart, which is very disappointing after all these.
Thank you for that.
And I just hope you can be strong enough as the parish council to bring us back together, because when you talk about Burbage, etc., and other villages that have this amazing facility, for which I was very proud to be part of the steering group when we had this built, and I would be very sad to see this fall apart. So stand your ground, be confident in what you're doing and work for the community, not for yourselves.
And is it how the community can get?
On that, I was wondering if it's worth putting that part of that online on the video poll group.
We did talk
Get a
about public
survey.
consultation, which I think is quite imminent at the moment.
Need to
Do you not
get
agree that if
it
something needs to go out?
Yeah, I've looked into whether we need to consult and whether we have a duty to consult. And the advice is, and I also spoke to the local government association because I've still got some contacts there, and their advice would be that there is no need to consult unless there is an option to close.
Chairman, you will also get advice from the Local Government Association that you shouldn't be doing controversial consultations during the PERDA period, which starts on the 27th of March.
Absolutely.
Correct, correct.
So on the 22nd of March, we're
Does it not say
27th
about
of March,
closure
we
in the
get
standards report?
effectively.
No.
Well, until the 5th of May.
I believe it does.
I
A period of
don't
closure.
know whether it was an option that
You
you
told
put
us
in
that
there.
this was our vision,
I
and
don't
this is what
remember
we need to
reading
go
it.
by. And in that report it mentions temporary closures of community
It does,
centres.
but we can go out and advertise for interested parties, for instance,
Putting it out to tender.
well, not necessarily out to tender, expressions of interest of anyone that would like to, in partnership with the parish council, run the centre.
Just that,
Would it not be better to put it out to tender if we've already got interest expressed?
Well,
If this
that's
is
up
our
for the
goal,
that's up for the parish council to decide.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
we don't have to, but would it not be wise?
We could do, or as I say, we could just advertise it to get expressions of interest from anybody that would want to work in partnership with the parish council to continue with the community centre.
If I can just say, Chair,
And that would quicken the process. Sorry,
Actually
Richard.
getting some of the stuff in order might actually help encourage people to actually apply for the tender. So let's get this work done. That might actually help facilitate
Process in the future.
a solution in the future.
would you know, Councillor Brady, it does go to, because technically we would, if we went with a third party, we would be effectively signing a lease with a third party to operate on our behalf. Would that go through the OJ tender process, or would it go,
I don't know.
right? Because obviously if it goes through OJ, then
yeah.
there's a time frame attached to that that would
Yeah,
take
but
us
it's
into
also, if the OJ regulations only apply to contracts over a specific amount.
which this wouldn't be because it's
It's a lease,
yeah,
isn't it? It's
yeah,
not a
yeah.
contract.
So really, we could pursue fairly quickly a third party or not a third party and put together a heads of terms or some form, because obviously if you've got to talk to a third party, you've got to have something to talk to them about. It can't be a hypothetically, if this we do that, you do that, you do the other. You've got to have some sort of structure around that to make it an effective gathering.
Well, I think what's happened in the past is that with expressions of interest, you then go out to those expressions of interest and ask them to come forward with proposals, which the council could then look at and consider, and you would include in those, and you'd want in your conversation with third party interest, you would need to emphasise the requirement for community support from the centre. So it couldn't be a wholly commercial organisation.
Which
So
is what
you,
we did in the beginning, wasn't
Yes.
it? The two parties at
yeah,
that
so
time.
you need, but I think once we get this work done, we'll be in a better position to maybe go out for advertising.
I mean, in the meantime, could we not advertise and ask for any other expressions of interest?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm
We
not,
could do that fairly quickly.
I'm not sure under what where you would make that, that's what I was trying to find out from Councillor Gray, where you would actually advertise that.
Well, there are some professional,
Probably is, yeah.
there are some professional magazines that will incur a cost. They won't do it for nothing.
I do wonder whether we should be advertising in the Herald, for example, for the
I was
centre
going to say
anyway.
exactly
Yeah.
the
For the
same.
centre,
Yeah.
and I suggest
So
we
we could
agree a
put-
budget for the club to do that.
Yeah.
Initially in the Herald,
Yeah.
For use, that is for
Yeah,
use.
on stream you might be able to find somewhere. L'Oreal send out a weekly newsletter which covers kind of what councils are looking for, asking for help, but potentially would include
We're also-
people to approach for expressions of interest.
We're also a member. Yeah, we're also members of the Rural Community Council, and they have a village hall forum.
Yeah.
So you can advertise your community space on their website as well. So I can
Well, there's
contact
a number of things we can do to try and improve the current situation.
No.
No.
On that note, it'd not be better to sort this.
The Grounds Trust.
Would it not be an ideal situation to get this governance sorted out?
Well, we are trying that. We're waiting. I've been in contact with the Charity Commission, and we're
Is there
now.
anything we can do to help? Is what I'm saying. Is there anything we can, as council?
Well, at the the next step in terms of the Recreation Ground Trust is having spoken to the Charity Commission about how, and they've now advised me how we go about changing the governance document and changing the scheme to incorporate the community centre now. The next step is to arrange a meeting of the existing trustees. Now, unfortunately, quite a lot of them have disappeared into the ether with the fullness of time, but we have got some, so I am now in the process of identifying what groups are still around and contact details.
It's something that we can try and get that up and running.
That we're in that process. We've got to arrange a meeting, then the trustees have to then agree the amendments that we want for the Constitution and everything. And then we've got to get permission from the Charity Commission to amend our scheme. And then, but that isn't, I mean, the Charity Commission are notoriously slow. So they're not that quick. So
If you need any help with that,
yeah, that's fine.
I think it's something that we could do to get it moving.
Harvey.
Voluntary action, that's the...
Yes,
Yeah.
If we need to do it, I know it's
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it could be up to 8 of the original 13. We think there's possibly about 6 in
Yes.
reality, but
Yeah.
there could be up to 8 organisations that are still in existence.
And just to reiterate, the premises is currently in the name of Markfield Recreation Ground Trust, the premises licence.
No, the premises licence is in the name of Markfield Parish Council.
What's the one that's on the board that says MRPC?
It says trading as, doesn't it? I think. I can't remember exactly. I have to go and
You
look.
need a licence for the building, and you need to think of licensing too.
Well, I'm not talking about the personal licence holder, I'm talking about premises licence. On the board
I'll
it
have to go
says-
and have a
Well, the
look.
licensee for
Well, the license, the designating
licensee.
premises supervisor for the licence is me.
Yeah. So we can still have, like the resident asked about, having
Yeah.
an event for the King's coronation, for example, we can still go ahead and
Yeah.
offer a temporary
Yeah.
events notice.
You don't need a temporary events notice.
Right.
And are we restricted for how many people were allowed in there?
Well, we were discussing that today
It said
because
60, didn't it, on there?
That's what I thought.
yeah, it depends on what configuration you have in terms of seats,
seating
tables,
or
chairs,
standing.
standing. So we need to get that.
And on the board.
Yeah.
Just a point on getting people through the door to take hiring now. If we do go down the route of a third party in the future, there will be a period of closure almost certainly for whoever takes it over to do any necessary upgrades in the first instance to rebrand them. So we just need to be mindful that there may be an interruption in any new customer coming through the doors higher.
Well, that would be for future discussions, wouldn't it, with whoever
I
would
think if you're
take it
going,
over.
yeah, I think if you're going to, if you're going the route of a third-party operator, a consultation with the current users would be an appropriate, step to take, really, because they will need to consult with the third party anyway to see where they stand, and they would need to consult with us. So,
Okay, thank you. I think we do need to move on, as we'll be here all night. I thank you all for your input into that discussion. As I said, we are in a very difficult place, but working together we will pull through, and hopefully everything will come out.
I just
Okay.
do need to just bring to the attention that the employee that you have is working a considerable amount of hours.
Yes, I know.
well, we're
And I
trying
think
to
that's-
address that under the staff report.
Okay, we're going to do that under
Under that staff report later. Okay, item 18, the fire risk assessment, which has moved on since we had it done.
Great piece of work.
We're waiting.
Yeah.
We're waiting on that, the staff training to be carried out. It would have been done, but the snow got in the way. Are we all in agreement to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next item, 19, electrical installation condition report. Again, that's moved on since
Yeah.
that report is done. There is some work that needs to be done, which we need to agree to. Do we need to agree to that?
Yes, and there's the, you need to note the report and what the findings, and then you would need to look at
The quote.
the quote, which has come in for addressing those issues, which is at £585.
I propose that we accept that. I would look through with my limited 52 years in construction, and I reckon it's about cock on. It's value for what we
I think it's right.
I would agree.
I would
Yeah.
propose it.
Okay, that's
Okay.
that.
And we have the asbestos management survey.
Yeah.
Again, that needs to be carried out. We've had a quote for that of,
Well, you've had three. The cheapest is
The one that
Clearview.
525, and that's just a management survey. And then you've got one which is the more detailed one that they've sent, which
580 something.
is,
Chair,
yeah.
I suggest that we allow the clerk to assess the claims and pick the best one, which is the best value for
Yeah.
Based on locality,
Best
the
value for
closest
money.
one is Clearview anyway, isn't it, I believe? The others are
Okay.
distance away,
Yeah.
so-
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, item 21, delegated powers.
oh, that's really just to ratify those. It's kind of irrelevant now because
Yeah.
the councillors that it
It's
referred to have kind of gone, so, yeah.
Okay, now we're going into a private session.
The only thing that was in that, Lorraine, that might just be worthy of a moment's consideration was that way back then we were going to do some sort of press release, and I just wonder if it's still relevant for us to do a statement, an update statement or something to the community.
Stuart, can I just say, when we're in closed session, when we're talking about MCA, I think that's the time that we can look to, because there's still negotiations ongoing with MCA. So just hold that thought for a minute, because I need to exclude the public. So the recommendation that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business as they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, Schedule 12A as amended by the Local Government Act, access to information variation order 1992, paragraphs 1, 2 and 6.
Thank you.
Meeting in the office.
Yes.
Yes,